Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing GT3 iRacing show. But tonight, we're not bringing you a round of the GT3 Championship. Oh no, instead we're bringing you tonight something just a little bit more fun related. Now, it's not to say all racing is not fun. Indeed, the GT3 Championship that our drivers have been in, they've been enjoying it very much so far. But do remember, last week we did say there would be a 2-week break between round number 8 and round number 9. So in the intervening week, what we decided to do is put on a little bit of a fun night for our drivers, but also for those of you who have been watching and been thinking, well, where can I get out on the circuit with these drivers? Can I get out there and show them my prowess, or just race or drive amongst the guys, whether they're amateur or pro? It doesn't matter, just get out there and enjoy their presence out on the circuit and also being on the same circuit as them. Well, this is that event, and we decided at NXTGEN Racing to put on this event tonight in collaboration with Apex Racing Academy and also Next Level Racing. And indeed, we've got a little bit of a fun, frantic evening lined up for you, but at the same time, no points up for offer today, just some gentle fun, albeit with the same or a similar format to what we would see in our normal GT3 Championship rounds. Now, of course, in the commentary box this evening, you'll have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and this broadcast is being brought to you live on 3 media platforms today. Firstly, you can watch it on the NXTGEN Racing official YouTube channel, that's NXTGEN Racing on YouTube. Secondly, you can watch it on Facebook under NXTGEN Racing, under Facebook groups, that's NXTGEN Racing. Or last but not least, if you are a Twitch user, you can of course watch this on my personal Twitch channel, that is TX141 on Twitch. And as you can see here, we are at Oulton Park International, the British circuit. We'll talk a little bit more about the circuit very shortly, but also there's some other things which we must discuss, particularly some slight modifications in the format tonight, which should just spice things up a little bit and could be a teaser for what's to come in future iterations of the iRacing GT3 Championship as hosted by NXTGEN. But before we get into all that plus plenty more, it's only appropriate that we introduce our sponsors, our primary sponsors, starting off with Apex Racing Academy. So who are Apex Racing Academy, I hear you ask? Well, put it short, Apex Racing Academy is not just a set-up shop. They are dedicated to making you better at iRacing with services, access to drivers and features not found on other driving schools and academies. Working with them will see you connecting with pros like never before. You can learn how to prepare for a race, build setups, improve lap times and understand how to use telemetry tools such as VRS. Every week they host multiple sessions where members can join coaches and take advantage of group coaching sessions. In partnership with SDK Gaming, all the data provided will be automatically synced directly to your PC. There's no need to go hunting for setup, replay or ghost files, the data is right there when you turn the simulator on. You're interested? Why not sign up today at apexracingac.com. That's apexracingac.com. And we're very grateful to have Apex Racing Academy on board with us. And we must also, of course, mention our second primary sponsor for this series, the GT3 series, and that is Next Level Racing. Now, who are Next Level Racing by comparison? Well, founded in 2009, Next Level Racing is the world's leading simulation brand, revolutionising simulation with its industry-leading product range. With a clear focus on innovation and quality to meet the demanding needs of sim racers, Next Level Racing's designs and technology shall take your sim racing experience to the next level. If you want to know more about their products, be sure to head to their official website today. That is nextlevelracing.com. And I'll say again, nextlevelracing.com. Of course, grateful to have both of our senior partners there on board. And now we are going to come on to the circuit. So we're at Oulton Park International Course in Little Budworth, Cheshire, the United Kingdom. A circuit known throughout the ages in multiple disciplines. You're typically seen this circuit used within a British Touring Car or the BTCC Championship, as well as the GT World Series. You'll see the GT3s racing around here, whether it be in just the British Series, the European Series, you name it, it has been used. But there's plenty of other disciplines, and of course you can take your own car around Oulton Park on track open days. Consisting of 17 corners, we are running that full international course with the 2 chicanes which are on the first half of the circuit, affecting the second chicane, creating the split to the second half of the circuit. A very challenging circuit because it's very tight, but at the same time it does offer great overtaking opportunities, where it's the long run from turn 3 round to turn 5, alternatively the chicane, so from 5 to 7, and then from turn 9 to turn 10, and then you do have the run on the back part of the circuit from turn 12 round to turn 17, where there's plenty of medium speed apexes to be capitalised on, and turn 16 of course the right hander, which then goes into the downhill drop before the uphill run to the finish line through turn 17, a very difficult pair of corners. Now, we do not have a reference to that for you today, but what we do have are some rather unique changes to the rule set. Now, tonight our drivers will be running the iRacing high downforce setup for both the races. We will have both the sprint and also the feature. And on top of that as well, we can see here we've already got one general change to the settings tonight. And that is we have increased time changes. So what it'll mean is the time of day that our drivers experience over the course of the race will evolve a little bit more rapidly than the standard time we have been using. So it could be the case that we may start a race at midday, whereas over the course of, say, the feature race, which would be an hour, that transition would be an hour's worth of time in game. That may now be 2 hours, for example. So actually the sun will change position, those shadows will change, and the conditions will change. And on top of that, we can see that the variable weather conditions have been introduced. So you can imagine that whilst the track temperature may be 28 degrees centigrade at the start of the race, it will get warmer over the course of the racing, and as more rubber is laid down as well, that's a consideration. But those track temperatures come up, meaning that the tyres are going to be more slidey, and it will be the case that as our drivers have to deal with those changing track temperatures, they will need to master the art of commanding their car around the circuit to victory. However, we also do have our standard split of the sprint race and also the feature race, as you can see there, with each driver having one fast repair available in the sprint, and the feature race, drivers will have their fuel loads this time restricted to 65%, not 75% for the start of the race. So a little bit less fuel in the car, and this means you have that greater gambit of whether you decide to save fuel or go all in. And it means that some pit stops may occur a little bit earlier than we've previously seen in the GT3 Championship. On top of that, you can see that a big change, the pros, i.e. the drivers designated as pros, shall start ahead of the amateurs on the grid. So this means whereas previously we saw after the sprint race that our pros and amateurs were still intermixed, much like in the qualifying session for the sprint start, instead in the feature race we will get that clear, distinct split between the two sets of drivers. So the pros will line up first on the grid in reverse grid order, quote unquote, and then it will be the amateurs who line up behind again in reverse grid order, but within their own class. We still do have that mandatory pit stop over the course of the feature race, which require drivers to take on fuel. Changing tyres is optional, and we also have one fast repair available for all of our drivers in the feature. And we should point out the sprint and the feature have not changed in duration. The sprint is still 15 minutes, the feature race is still 60 minutes. And as we now come back to your live screens right now, it is the case, as we can see here. Our timetable for tonight, as we're giving you the overview, at 8 o'clock this evening, British Summer Time, or UTC +1. So in just under 7 minutes, we will be getting qualifying underway, that 15-minute qualifying session to determine who will be on pole for race number 1 for the sprint race. And then we'll have a 15-minute sprint race, followed by a brief pause, and then we will be back for the feature race at 5 to 9 tonight. And that will be the 60-minute feature race, which is likely to start at 9 o'clock dead on the dot, and then we'll go racing for an hour around the circuit and see who our winners will be in the extended race. Now, whilst we are waiting to get underway at the moment, I should point out that because we do have a number of drivers who would not normally race in the GT3 Championship, at least not for the current season, you are going to see some new faces running around on the circuit tonight. And these are drivers who have been invited with their friends or teammates racing in the current series. And we can see here, for example, Tony Widschaft making his way right now down towards turn number 3. Well, not turn number 3, my apologies. The camera angle looking a little bit similar there, but in fact coming through the chicane there, turns 6 through to 7, and now charging it down towards the next part of the chicane, going into the second half of the lap. But as he makes his way down right now, we also need to say hello to the newcomer here of Ben Thanes, the Belgian here, making his way right now through what is turn number 5. As he comes out into turn 6 and then heading up towards the first of the chicanes here in the Porsche tonight, and looking very, very ferocious in that Porsche right now. Currently 6th in terms of our practice times here. And you can tell these newcomers, or the wild cards as we refer to them, by the purple slash next to their name in the timing board up on the left hand side of your screen. So if you're looking out for the wild cards or the drivers who we do not normally see in the GT3 Championship, either not registered for it and they're not within a category, those are your guys to watch out for. And who knows, perhaps we'll be seeing them out on the circuit in a future season of the GT3 Championship. We've also got Robert. And goodness me, they're giving me some very difficult surnames to pronounce still. We've got here Robert Sunic D as he makes his way right now down towards what is turn number 13-14 as he comes rip-roaring through in the Porsche 911 as well. Charging around right now, looking very smart and ferocious with that car. I believe actually listed there with the amateur tag on the rear of the car. And we're just checking in with race control if we do have any information to that effect. Not so we will keep him, well, I think he is being classified as an amateur here, so we might change that very shortly for you folks. Actually, we'll bring them into the classes they have been matched with. And we've also got here Lamet Wedder making his way right now down towards what is the second of the two chicanes. As he comes charging down there right now, is the case he's got that BMW there with a shaft behind him and having to watch out for the BMW M4 driver who is looking very fast indeed as he comes out of the chicane and now makes his way into the woodland section. But those are our drivers who have joined us tonight, in addition to the standard and regular faces that you will know and love. And we are expecting some fantastic racing from our drivers here at the Oulton Park circuit. Indeed, a circuit which, as you can see, and will very shortly bring you an onboard lap. It's one of those circuits which is very challenging for all the right reasons. And the key one is that variance of corners and a lot of elevation changes as well to go with it. But the fastest man right now out on circuit is the driver from Luxem 24. It's Billy Fletcher here. The name that you all know, he's been the household name in the GT3 Championship, leading the pro category right now. And he's bringing the Porsche 911 today, bringing a different car and getting it very wrong there on the exit of 16. And as a result, saying hello to the tyre barrier there on the inside of the circuit. I think just pushing it a little bit too hard right now, but he's nicely parked up as he jumps back to the pits. And then we have here, of course, Colin Martin, the Next Gen Racing Team driver, as he makes his way through the forest section right now. And as we can see there, 8.5 tenths off of Billy Fletcher's time of 1:32.514 as things currently stand. And I should say, guys and girls, if you are in the chat, feel free to say hi. Do not be shy, because we will be requiring you to get a little bit involved later on tonight, as well as spectating. Of course, you have the right to watch completely freely, all this being brought to you free of charge, but also we would like you to get involved over the course of tonight, particularly towards the end of the feature race, to let us know who your driver of the day is. Normally we do driver of the day based on the commentator, so I'll normally say who, in my opinion, is the driver of the day, and I feed that back to the drivers after the race event. It's not done on the live stream, but we're going to be starting to encourage more of you to get involved by telling us about your driver of the day over the course of the proceedings, particularly in the final half an hour of the feature race. So do keep your eyes out there. Be sure to be having your thoughts about who you've seen perform very well today, and also do not be afraid to say hello. And I hope you're having a good week so far. We're on Wednesday right now. We've got over the hump day almost in terms of that midpoint of the week. 2 more days to go after tonight to get to the weekend, and we've got plenty of racing action here for you, as we are now only minutes away from the conclusion of the practice session. As we look back to our drivers here, we can see Wedder here in the Porsche, and we are definitely going to start to update the classifications here, because I think it's only appropriate. So we will be classifying the Belgian as an amateur from this point forwards, but now we can see him making his way around the circuit here, coming out to turn 3 and heading up into 4 and 5, the very tricky extended left-hander of 4, which can catch a lot of drivers out because of how elongated it is, and the fact you have to play that balancing act on the throttle before he comes into the right-hand hairpin of turn number 5. As we move over to the classification of what is amateur, we can also see here some of our other drivers. Well, we do have Sunic D, as he's also in the amateur category. As we see a number of drivers that are getting it very wrong there, coming out of what appears to be turn number 3. In fact, they all seem to be in formation there. And oh goodness me, Sonic making his way around right now, and indeed having to get himself back up to speed very rapidly. As he comes all the way down into the hairpin right now. The challenge with that Porsche, of course, a very tricky car to drive in iRacing, all about balancing the performance of the car as much as humanly possible in terms of the wheels, and making sure those rear wheels in particular get the right traction and the rear end does not slide and pick up some excessive oversteer. But right now, we've still got a couple minutes to go, And we can also see Ben Fens here making his way out of turn 3 after having that terrible moment and now getting himself up to speed. Looks as though he's in the pro category for the purposes of tonight. And we have also got Tony Verschaft here, who is making his way down, and we're just trying to identify whether he is listed as a pro or an amateur here. We're not quite able to see based on the car here. I would say based on how fierce that car is around the circuit, he would be classified as a pro. And as he makes his way down through turn number 3 right now, looking very smooth indeed. So we're going to take the best guess that he's most likely in the pro category for tonight. Also, his lap time might be a little bit indicative of that. Although I do say that we've only got 4 pros here, including Fins and potentially Verschaft, and then everybody else is an amateur. And we have seen the amateurs really take the fight to the pros on some occasions in the GT3 Championship, so it's not as though our amateurs are in a completely different league from the pros. It's just that they're in a slightly different league, but every so often we can see the amateurs pull some surprises, and many of you will think of a name such as George Bland immediately, who has pulled time and time again surprises versus a number of pros and also doggedly fought a number of them. But we're just going to update our classifications for our drivers right now, folks, and once done here we will be now really counting down to going racing, as I believe we've just had Speak of the devil and he shall rise. We've just had George Bland pull down into the paddock, and we can expect that he'll be out on the circuit very soon. Will he be bringing the MP4 12C McLaren, or will it be the case that he's going to bring a different car? I think he is here with the McLaren tonight, folks, and if so, that's going to be fantastic. We do love to see the McLaren out on the circuit, and it's his favourite car. He loves to bring it out there, even though it's perhaps not as fast as some of the other cars around. He does love to send it around the circuit and work it as best he possibly can as they all make their way around still. As we see here, Fletcher making his way through the second chicane here, coming through turn 10, 11 and 12, the very difficult sequences of corners here, and that's what the challenge of Oulton Park is all about. It's all about these knife edge corners where you've just got these little nip and tuck moments, and it's a case of just being able to balance that throttle control and knowing when to fully get on the pound. One of the biggest challenges here at the British circuit. But speaking of taking a lap, we're going to ride on board with Fletcher as he takes us around for a lap of the British circuit. And as we ride on board here now, coming through the final corner of 16 and leaving that corner now, absolutely charging out the corner there, and now making his way through 17, he goes on to another lap. Just coming across that timing line then, he'll be going into the right-hander of turn 1, breaking it down here, staying in roughly third or fourth gear in fact, and as he comes out there, using the full extent of track limits as he rolls down the hill now, down through turn 2, the right-hander into turn 3, a trail braking corner, turn 3, and it's all about knowing when to get on that throttle and hug that apex curve. As he exits the corner, he now charges all the way down towards 5, but first he's got turn 4, and as he builds up the speed here, going up into 5th gear, you'll hear that he's just going to balance the throttle as he makes his way through 4 and up into the heavy hairpin of 5. Now, one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit besides the chicanes, and you can see the bank in there means that you can attack on the throttle a little bit sooner. He's got some traffic ahead of him, but now as he comes through the right-hander of 6 here to make his way up into the chicane of 7, 8 and 9, you see the first of the chicanes, and as he makes his way through, one car moving out of the way there, that was one of our amateurs getting it a little bit wrong, and we've got Fane just ahead of him right now as they make their way down towards turn number 10 here, into the second chicane, then 10, 11 and 12, the right into left into right combination as he comes through 11 and then into 12, but 12 an extended right-hander here where you want to attack that apex curve, but doing so can be very risky as he now comes over the ridge here through turn 13, and he'll be getting ready to go through 14 as well, the double left section before coming into the right hand of 15 here, dealing with that traffic as well, releasing himself the double apex at turn 15 as he makes his way out. Fane getting a little bit wrong there, and now making their way down towards turn number 16 here, the final major braking zone. Of course, this very challenging right-hand corner where you've got the rise on the apex, the camber change through that corner is something to be believed as they make their way out of 17. A nice lap there by Fletcher, a little bit held up, but still definitely a very good lap, and a sign it was only 1.5 tenths in the end off of what he's previously done his best lap. So Fletcher was going it for it there, and it did look a very smooth lap, and we look forward to seeing what he can do in qualifying, as we are hearing that the practice session is going on for a couple more minutes. We've got 2 more minutes of the practice session, so there's going to be a slight delay to the start of proceedings tonight by that 2-minute window, but once we have completed the practice session, we will be going for qualifying session number 1, and we can see here, you asked for it, ladies and gentlemen, the M&V Esports driver of George Bland. Well, he's decided not to quite get that right there on the exit out of the first chicane, but he is bringing what is a now slightly battered McLaren MP4 12C to the British circuit, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. But plenty of other drivers here. We've got Chris Keenan, for example, making his way down the privateer here, coming out of the pit lane in the Ferrari 488 as he makes his way around the 488. A GT3 Evo, recently upgraded to the Evo, of course. iRacing providing that upgrade for all of our Ferrari drivers, and they've been looking very much forward to it and enjoying the Italian machine, the Italian stallion, as we like to refer to it. A very composed and good all-round car as Keenan making his way around. And we are also hearing that Ollie Wayne has just arrived out at the circuit as Keenan gets a little bit too aggressive on the throttle there into four and hits the tyre barrier there with the rear of the car. Makes his way back to the pits. We've also here got the return of the BMW Motorrad driver of Jochen Seeger. Now, if your eyes feel like they're deceiving you because you're seeing a Mercedes here when you should normally be driving this BMW M4, remember this is a fun night tonight, so our drivers are allowed to bring whichever car in the GT3 class that they desire, and it's not a case that they are fixed to the cars they normally run in that GT3 Championship. We can see Seeger here running the Mercedes AMG, probably most likely powered by a BMW spec engine here because he does love his BMW M4. He's probably even lifted the engine out. Well, I'd say that, but that V8 is absolutely roaring right now in his Mercedes as he makes his way down towards turn 16. We've also got the return here of Stefan Gamberg Rasmussen as he makes his way down into turn number 16 right now. The SBMS racer here, and I believe he is the Switchback Motorsport Racing driver, given the fact he is running those colours. So we will get that team name updated for you there because of the fact we do like to have our drivers representing the teams on the broadcast and whatnot, but he's definitely representing Switchback Motorsport based on what he is using on the car there, livery-wise, unless he's just run it for a special here. We've also got Mikkel Andreasen here, the slow and steady racing driver, making his way through turns at 13 and 14 into 15, and we can see there racing for charity tonight. The Autism Speaks logos on the side of the car as practice is complete, ladies and gentlemen, and we now make our way into the qualifying session. Place your bets. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. We can see Colin Martin, the first of our drivers to come surging out of the pit lane right now as all of our drivers get ready and warmed up here. And we say hello to Katie Eames in the Facebook chat. They're saying, love Oulton and Pinball George. Well, hopefully Mr. Bland's not going to be a pinball over the course of the races, but definitely looked as though he went a little bit too aggressive around there on one of his opening laps. But indeed, everybody getting themselves up to speed and, of course, blowing off some steam. That's what the racing tonight for a good number of drivers is about. Because remember, whilst racing in a league is great fun, it can also get very intense. I can say it myself, folks, it can get very stressful, particularly when things do not go your way, but sometimes you just need one or two of those races to blow off that steam and then come back stronger once again. But as we see right now, it's Colin Martin, our lead driver, making his way around. We also point out to Matt Emmons here, bringing the Porsche 911, that rather fetching livery on the Porsche 911, which he was running for a time, the MV esports driver, but decided to switch cars, of course, but he's now back in the Porsche and getting to enjoy it once again. And I had the chance to catch up with Matt prior to tonight as we see Bland getting it wrong again there, going through the opening chicane, just attacking it a little bit too much. I think the rear end just not wanting to settle. Let's take a look back at that. Or in fact, that's just after he ran off. Let's see if we can get a little bit earlier back. So as he was coming through there just a little bit too high on the apex curve, and you could see there how the front right wheel, because of the way the curb is angled, it's raised, and as a result it caused the front right wheel to tyre I should say, to come completely off the road surface, and that in the end is what caused him to go into the spin. So he tried to get the power down on the other three tyres, but the traction said no and sent him spinning off onto the inside of the circuit. But as they make their way around right now, it is Colin Martin who has gone onto his opening flying lap. Let's ride on board here and see what he's able to do as he makes his way down through 2 and into 3 here, looking very smooth and composed here. But we do love to see this from Martin, a very smooth driver, very consistent driver. He's not necessarily had results always go his way in the events he's taken part in, but nobody can doubt his consistency as he now comes through 4 here and looking at very tight to the apex there, now up into the hairpin at 5. And here coming all the way down the gears and leaving that last gear shift downwards until he's starting to make his way onto the apex there to give himself a little bit more rotation as he now comes roaring through 6 and up into the first of the chicanes, attacking the chicane very aggressively, straight lining it into 8 as he makes his way out to 9 now and long run down towards turn number 10 into the second chicane. He comes watching out for that 100-metre board, of course, as he now makes his way through here, looking out for that tyre barrier as well, which is the signal to turn in for the apex of 10 through 11 as well, and now into turn number 12. And as he charges out to 12, he's now got the run through the double left-hand sequence of 13 here, and then at 14 as he goes underneath the advent board, going into that second left-hander, and now making his way down into turn at number 15 here. Gets it rather high on the opening apex curve of the double apex right-hander, and that unsettled the car a little bit. He's lost about half a tenth there as he makes his way down towards turn number 16 right now into the very challenging last corner. Of course, the last main braking corner. Of course, we have 17 coming up here, but a very nice run there out the final pair of corners. And what's this going to be for Martin as he crosses that timing line? He's going to set the opening lap in this qualifying session, and it is going to be a 33.475. A good opener. I suspect there may be a little bit faster out there from some of our drivers, but we will wait and see as he makes his way down towards turn 2. Mark Sykes, meanwhile, you can see the Next Gen Racing team driver here in the Ferrari 488 this time. And Sykes bringing out that lovely liveried car. Indeed, Sykes being a major livery designer. If you want to know more about the work that Mark Sykes does, be sure to check him out at Mark Sykes Designs. He's put together a good number of liveries for our drivers over the course of the GT3 Championship. Indeed, our drivers getting very high 5-star thumbs up reviews with regards to the liveries he's put together. A very artistic man, not just artistic in terms of designs, but also in his approach to driving, trying to find the best possible way through every single corner. But as we look back to our times that have come in so far, we can see here Vishav has so far got himself into a P2 there with what is a 133.6, only 2.5 tenths off of Colin Martin. Not a bad opening lap from Vishav. In fact, a 133.7 there, my apologies, as he makes his way down through turn 6. Flashing his lights though, feeling as though he's being obstructed a little bit here, but I believe that's Matt Emmons in the snap-on machine as he makes his way out of the chicane, and Emmons are moving out the way immediately as we can see our fastest amateur driver so far, of which 2 have posted that. Here's Arjan Bakker here as he comes down towards turn number 10. And Bakker right now on what is a 135.1. He's got himself a nice 3 tenths of a second window over Rasmussen as they make the way through at turn number 12. We can see that Matt Emmons again having to move out of the way for drivers coming roaring through right now. I think it's just the case that he's in the wrong place at the wrong time out of the circuit as we see Bakker continue to charge down towards what is turn number 15 right now. As he comes through the right hand here, keeping it nice and composed, as we do see that looks like that's Vishav hopping back to the pits. He got a little bit wrong coming out of turn number 15 there. Let's take a look back at what happened. So I think it was the case he's just decided to park up and jump back to the pits because of the way the car was angled there. Not a major mistake, just deciding to make the jump. As we see some more times coming in. Matthew Addy, he's in the Ferrari once again here. Oh, goodness me, getting a little bit of a slide there coming out to turn number 1. And Addy will have to be very careful of that next time he comes around, of course, because if he continues to push that hard through turn number 1 and the run out the right-hander and then downhill, I think it's going to be a major challenge here as we do see Addy today running what is a pro style liveried car here. We have got him listed as our amateur driver, but we are just going to see what he can do as he makes his way around. But a very, very simple but at the same time effective and striking livery on the car there. Indeed, looking relatively fast right now. He is a tenth off of Arjan Bakker, but we can see Mikkel Andreasen has now taken provisional pole in the amateur class here as he makes his way through 10 and 11, then through 12. Of course, we're talking about classes here, folks, but there's no points up for offer. There's no competition here, but it's just a way of classifying our drivers. Of course, we're pointing these out because of the fact that we do normally have the classes in the GT3 Championship. Andreasen right now in a world of his own, it would seem, compared to his colleagues in his category on that 34.39, and it's Rasmussen on what is a 135.0 is the second closest to him right now in terms of those times, as we do see there one of our drivers moving out the way. I think that might have been Sunik who just moved out the way of Andreasen as they make their way across that timeline and down towards turn number 1. But of course, this is a great opportunity for the driver behind, and that's not Sunik, my apologies. That is, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's Lamet Wedder, as he follows now Andreasen down into turn number 3. Might be a little bit of an information trip this one, just following behind Andreasen, trying to see what the Danish driver is doing by comparison. Some drivers do like to do this. They like to have somebody in front of them, particularly the fastest guy in front of them, just to give them a little bit of a reference point. They'll naturally fall back over the course of the lap if they're not as fast, but at the same time they continue to look at it and then they realise, okay, well, he's braking a little bit later here, or he's getting better traction out this corner, and this is where I can gain the lap time. It's almost as if you're acting as your own spotter in a way in terms of determining how drivers are faster than you around the circuit, and